All right, we'll call the meeting order. It's 3 o'clock. Today is November 26th, 2025. This is our regular scheduled meeting for the Hutchinson Utilities Commission. Agenda item 1 is the conflicts of interest by any of the commissioners today.
None here.
Hearing none, we'll go on to agenda item number 2, which is to approve the consent agenda, the minutes and the ratify the payment of bills. Anybody have anything to pull out of that?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Don, second by Kathy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Item 3 is to approve the financial statements.
I don't have a whole lot other than what's in the notes, but I thought I'd go through them quick in case you guys have questions. You can see the electric usage was up slightly, and then the customer revenue pretty much corresponds with that. Other revenues were down $80,000, but last year we sold $76,000 worth of vehicles, so that's the reason for that. Purchase power is down because there was a MISO credit. We talked about this true ups on the transmission side. MISO's constantly doing true ups on purchase power. So they ended up having more credits than actually we bought, so they had negative purchase power this month. So that's why that is down. And then the operating expenses, you see a big drop. That's because last year we paid for the baseball field lighting, which was pretty much all of that $210,000 difference. Excuse me. And then if you go to the gas side, everything's pretty much on track the same as last year. There was increased usage, but increased revenue, which also led to increased purchase gas. Salaries and benefits increased more than on the electric side because we were fully staffed now, whereas last year we were still short a director and I think another position pretty deep. Excuse me, but that's all I have.
Yeah, nothing really much to add to the P&L. I guess just from a cash standpoint, it's kind of topic Jeremy alluded to it. November's obviously cash will be significantly going down. You made the bond payments,
Yeah, that was almost $3 million.
$3 million. The shed, the building for the substation, that came, and so we got our invoice of $1.6 million for that. So that's coming in. We have pulled in money from the money market. We may need to pull some more in to make these large payments. So right now, I think our cash balance is just over $23 million. I've got us forecasted to probably be down around 19, 20 million by the end of the year. So, we'll generate some operating cash, but I think it'll be enough to offset the debt service and some large payments coming on the project, which we talked about. So just wanted to make you aware that you'll see cash position will be down greater at the end of the year, so you're not shocked when you see that. So. Otherwise, things are, as far as operation is trending fine, really nothing significant out of there. And then can just touch on the investments. Obviously, we're staying real liquid because of the projects and things. So when you look at those charts, you can see most of our money is sitting less than a year right now. So but otherwise, we're trending pretty well. So nothing out of the ordinary.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy. Any other questions on the financial statements?
Motion to approve financial statements.
Second.
Motion by Tom, second by Troy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The financial statements are approved. Agenda item 4 is an open forum. We have no new guests today, so we'll move on to agenda item 5. Communication. We'll start with the city administrator. Hi, Matt.
Hey guys, don't really have anything for you. Nothing new, just getting ready for our taxes and levy if you want to hear about that.
Did they go up?
They don't go down.
So.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Matt. We'll get into the divisions then. Mike?
No real update on Unit 1. GE's hoping to have some stuff for Jeremy and I to review early next week is what they're hoping. Unit 7, Ziegler Cat was on site last week and assisted us in replacing the oil pan gasket that's been leaking for pretty much since the day it was installed. So for 6 years or whatever, we finally pinpointed where it was leaking from. So now Ziegler Cat's working with us to try to get a warranty claim filed with Caterpillar out of Germany. we'll see where that gets us or whatever. Other than that, that's where we're at. Everything down at Plant 1 is in good condition, running condition now, so.
All right, Dave?
We've had some issues with one of our inverters on our solar field this last summer and fall, and doing some inspections on that. We found it did fail on us. They did replace it warranty, so it was warranty. We got that replaced here last month. So that's up, everything's up and running on that. The only thing that wasn't warranty was the labor, so we had help in getting that installed. As you're looking through our outage report, we do have a new look outage report now in our system, our reliability. They went away from our e-reliability and we're now using a thing called Power TRX, Power Tracks. So it looks a little bit different, same information, just a little bit different look to it. So if you have any questions on that, I'll be happy to answer those, but just a little bit, just wanted to explain to you why you're seeing that look difference. I think that's about it.
All right, thank you.
Well, as you notice coming in, winter is finally here, so I think our construction season is just about done. So we're wrapping that up, getting the equipment cleaned up, put away. One thing I do want to mention is we did complete the CI survey from Tremont to St. James, and that's kind of checking the coating in the pipe and any kind of issues underground. And we haven't got the formal report yet, but just they wanted to give us a heads up that they haven't found any major issues, so that's a good thing. Typically, they just kind of like to follow up right away so that there's something we can start planning. But sounds like we should be good to go. I don't think there'll be anything actually. So that's all I got to report.
I'll just mention, I think I brought up a few months ago, we were thinking of billing and accounting software. I just thought I'd mention that we postponed that with all the transmission projects going on. So that'll be postponed indefinitely to decide where we're at cash-wise. That's all I have.
All right, human resources.
I've been working a lot on paid family medical leave, and in December you'll have a few policies for review as well. We're making some changes to our ESST, updating that to the statutes, and just smaller policies that need to be updated as well. So. And then also next month with Jeremy's review, next week I plan on sending you information for the GM review, so you guys can get that information back to me and I can compile all the results, so we'll have it for the annual review.
Feels like we just did that.
So fast the year goes.
Uh-huh, yeah.
All right, thank you, Angie.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Legal.
Nothing today.
Back to you, Jeremy.
Nothing really of significance, just trying to finalize budgets, CIP, and kind of year-end stuff, so it's getting close.
Okay. Agenda item 6A, looks like there was 7 policies to review. And agenda item 6B, we do have one change to payments of HUC payables.
Yep, and that is just updating the dates for the upcoming year.
Pretty simple. Anybody care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the policy changes.
Motion by Troy. Second by Tom. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Changes to payables are approved. Item 7, unfinished business. We have none, so we'll move into the new business. 8A, this is a good one. Approve the non-waiver of tort liability limits for general liability insurance.
This is our every November, League of Minnesota cities choose not to waive, because I don't know why anyone would choose to waive it. To waive our tort liability limits to be the maximum the state allows.
I'll make a motion to not waive the tort liability limits.
Second.
Motion by Don, second by Kathy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda item 8A is approved. 8B is to approve customer uncollectible write-offs.
Also another normal November one. The amount this year to write off is $6,036.58. I included past years. So this is pretty much in line on the lower end. No businesses in the mix this year, so everything's fairly small. Looks like 500-ish is the largest one. So.
Cost of doing business.
I'll I'll make a motion to approve the write-offs.
Motion by Kathy, second by Troy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? 8B is approved. Move on to 8C is to approve resolution 25-01, authorizing the purchase of natural gas from Minnesota Municipal Gas Agency, DBA Minnesota Community Energy.
Thanks, Matt. So this is part of the prepaid deal that we're looking to enter into. So there's two resolutions in your packet today. The first resolution is 2501. Really high level, basically it's the resolution that needs to be passed by the governing board, basically showing their intent to continually move forward with the deal as it finalizes and gets constructed, go up to bond issuance. So this resolution particularly says that the board is going to eventually approve a final gas supply agreement between HUC's System Gas and MCE. Also, the intent to approve the gas supply agreement with Heartland Corn, and also a NASB agreement, which is the agreement that's going to be put in place between HUC and the Heartland Corn customer. So those three agreements are basically part of this resolution. What's in the packet is the form agreements. They're draft agreements, but I wanted to get them to you so you can kind of see what they're going to look like when they finally come forward for final execution. A lot of the dates are blank, a lot of the months are blank, because the intention right now is they're probably not going to close on the deal and issue bonds until the first part of 2026. The other participants are going to be approving their resolutions in December. It sounds like Missouri River Energy Services is also looking to come into the deal. So they're not going to be able to go in front of their governing board until December as well. And so because all these things have to be approved, and they're not going to get approved until December for other agencies, more than likely they're not going to get their final documents put together in the preliminary offering statements, and those documents need to be ready to go out for bonds until the first quarter of 2026. But since I felt comfortable with where our stuff is at, I didn't want to delay it any longer, and so this first resolution is basically, you guys are authorizing, yet we'll continually move forward with the deal, assuming we get the minimum discounts and those things as part of that. As part of those deals, when we finally do go out, if we don't capture the minimum discounts that are in these draft documents, they won't issue the bonds. And so that's just part of it as well. So that's the first resolution, is for you guys to authorize continually moving forward with, in that you're eventually going to potentially approve those final agreements, assuming the minimum discounts and things are met.
So it says that we're authorized but not obligated, so that gives us the out. If it
Correct.
Aye.
Yep. And then Mark has put his attorney opinion letter in there as well. I put that in there as well. That's part of the bond, part of their gas supply and prepaid deals that need to be in there to suffice tax counsel and the transaction. So thanks for that, Mark, as well.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 25-01.
I will second.
Motion by Troy, second by Don. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda item 8C is approved. 8D is to approve resolution 25-02, establishing a natural gas rate schedule for the large industrial customer.
So this is a second resolution that we typically haven't had the last two times we've done prepaid deals, but because we're bringing in an industrial customer into this prepaid deal underneath us to get some of the discount, a resolution also has to be adopted by the board, essentially saying that we're going to negotiate a rate schedule on that. Now, what's basically in the resolution is that they're going to buy the gas either at monthly index price or the daily spot market price. So kind of that schedule has already been, at least for the commodities piece, has already kind of been signified in the resolution. Their intention is to buy their gas at daily price. They've trended it over since they've been in existence, and even though some months the first of the month pricing is better, overall they're okay with a little bit of the risk volatility in the daily spot market price because they're coming out better on the daily price. But they also wanted the intention for, if certain months they wanted to fix some first of the month pricing, like over the winter, if they feel like there's going to be some significant volatility in the future with winter pricing, that they could switch over to first of the month pricing versus the daily pricing. So this transaction will allow those guys to do that. The only piece that they need to ensure that they're doing is that they're being consistent in when they're using the different pricing indexes. So if you're gonna use the daily pricing 9 months of the year, it's gotta be the same 9 months of the year. And if you're gonna use the first of the month pricing for the gas, and you wanna use it as an example for December, January, February, you gotta use it that same way for every year until the remarketing period. So they don't want customers flipping back between market pricing structures because they're buying the bonds and they're doing the swaps based on the pricing indexes, and so they don't want that volatility in the transaction.
So
this-
seasonality is fine, it just has to be consistent.
It has to be consistent, correct. Volumes have to be consistent, and seasonality has to be consistent, and the indexing has to be consistent.
And who enforces that?
So it's a transaction, so it'll be the off taker, so the downstream suppliers, the gas, so whoever you're using. So this transaction allows every participant to use whoever they want for the gas. A lot of them, a lot of the old structures were, it was one supplier of gas, so in some instances it was BP. But this structure, they're allowing it. So it's gonna be monitored by JP Morgan Chase, MCE, and then the gas suppliers have to ensure that that's, and that stuff will all be set before they issue the bonds, because everyone has to provide their schedule of what they're gonna do. And once that gets set, it's locked in, and then they issue the bonds based on the schedule. So that isn't gonna change. So we've already provided ours long ago, because we know what ours is.
So we don't have to monitor HCP and regulate them?
No, they're gonna be strictly monitored by the other agencies, but they're gonna give us their schedule, so we're gonna know it before they issue the bonds, because they're gonna give it to us. Here's our schedule, and here's what it's gonna be, and so is MCE, because we're gonna have to ultimately bill them. It's gonna pass through us, so we're gonna ultimately see the schedule as well, so we'll know that. So that piece, but it allows them some flexibility to flip back and forth, so that's part of the resolution. It doesn't really impact us piece, and then the only other piece of this resolution sets out is we'll still need to come up with the final discount allocation. So right now, on the numbers that I've given you as far as forecasted discount, that's a 31-cent discount where they're capturing 22 cents of the discount and we're capturing 9. But if they go out and issue bonds and the discount's higher than 31, then we still need to negotiate with Heartland Corn the final discount price. So it's not going to be any lower than what it is. It could be higher on our end or their end, depending on that. So this resolution authorizes HEC and the board to finalize that when it's known at the time the bonds are issued and the discount is known, if that makes sense.
Mark, you're good with this agreement also?
I am.
Any further questions on the resolution?
Oh. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2502.
Second.
Motion by Troy, second by Kathy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda item 8D is approved. Agenda item 8E is to approve requisition 010454 for B Minnesota Data Centers conductor and terminators. Dave.
Yes, as you recall, last month we did the switchgear for the data center, and this is the next portion. This is the conductor and terminators for that project. And got the 2 quotes, and the conductor's pretty straightforward. The one company, they have a 10,000 foot minimum to order it. We don't need 10,000 feet, so that we just can't order that. But the other one was less price anyway, but we can order the footage we need. So we're gonna let's go with that one. And then the terminators and the elbows and terminators, even though the one was a little bit less, they quoted the wrong connector. And I did get an updated quote just today for the correct connector, which puts them about 4,000 higher. So it worked out that we're staying with Wesco on the terminators and elbows as well, and connectors. So I'm asking to approve Wesco for both the conductor and terminators for the data center project.
Any further questions?
I'll make a motion to approve requisition 010454.
Motion by Kathy,
I'll second.
second by Tom. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda item 8E is approved. Agenda item 8F is the discussion of 2026 environmental footprint chart and 2024 power supply mix chart.
So I just wanted to put these in there. It's not really a discussion. I just wanted you guys to get, after you guys made a decision on where you wanted to be on the Bright Energy Choices program, they finalized their graphs that they send out to all their membership. So, they've now started sending us two. One is the actual where our power came from 2024, the previous year, full calendar year. So that one is in there, and you can see for 2024, most of our power came from market purchases, and then coal from some of their coal power plants, natural gas, and then nuclear. They've got a stake ownership in nuclear, and then we talked a little bit about that with the Bright Energy Choices program. Although they're keeping the RECs for purchase, we're getting the physical energy off that as part of our portfolio. And then wind is a decent portion up in this region of the northern part of MISO. There's a lot of wind allocation up here, so they own and are stakeholders in a lot of wind farms, and they also have some contracts that provide wind, so we get about 5% of our power came from wind. And then that RRHP is the Red Rock Hydro Plant. That's that $350 million plus hydro plant that they put in down in Iowa. So that one came online several years ago. They issued a ton of bonds for that to do that, and so now their allocation is starting to get spread out to their members, and so we got 4% of our energy came from hydro last year. And then a little bit of diesel. Some of that's just some of their fuel oil switching if they need to run some of those. But most of it, our biggest is market purchases. And again, that's made up of a mixture of all of these pieces. And then again, the next would be coal and natural gas, as is pretty common up in this region. The biggest portion of generation so is coal and natural gas up here, and then wind, and then some nuclear. And then the other one is really then our footprint as far as our attributes are concerned. And so for 2026, because of the election that the board has made, what we're saying for 2026 is we're going to be 50% carbon free within our community now. A portion of that's coming from the RECs that we're purchasing on the allocation that you guys approved, and then a portion that's coming from a lot of the market purchases that they're buying. A portion of those market purchases are carbon free as well. And so then we'll be 25% renewable, but 50% carbon free, and that's pretty much split 25% coming from RECs and 25.3% coming from the market purchases that have a lot of renewables in it, or carbon free sources, and that could be nuclear, it could be wind, it could be solar. So what they recommend for us is if you're putting out things in your community as far as attributes and your message, that first pie chart would be the one where we're saying this is how green our community is, or our net impact. So just wanted to give you highlighted those things. So
How come the bar graph goes over 100?
bad math.
1-3.
Only a banker would know that.
You round down. So.
All right, thank you, Jeremy, on that. So we added one item to the agenda today. It's going to be agenda item 8G, which is the approval of suspending power cost and fuel cost adjustment credits for 2026.
So just kind of to recap, we went through our budget workshop this afternoon and looked at really where our operating budgets will be both on the electric and gas side. Obviously, particularly on the electric side is where we're seeing large increases with transmission cost increases, and then our wholesale power costs are going up just over $611,000. In addition to a lot of our operating cost increases are increasing, and so over the years we've done some general retail rate increases. We're on a 3-year glide path. Our last one that was formally approved went into place October 1st of 2025. But as we looked at the preliminary 2026 budgets, our retail rates and the rate allocations that we're collecting back aren't keeping pace with the increased costs of power supply, commodity costs, those sorts of things. And so some of the mechanisms that we've been using to adjust in the volatility to our retail rate customers and keeping cash balance on hand. Normally, we would be giving back in certain years, but because of the way trajectory is looking as far as where operating budgets are being forecasted to increase, we're looking at suspending those mechanisms to make sure that we're staying cash. We have a good cash balance on hand, particularly not only for operating cash purposes, but also for these large transmission and distribution projects that are coming up in the next 6 years. So as you guys have been alluding to and looking at, and I touched on a little bit with the financial statements, when we start doling out $3 million here and $2 million there and $4 million there, our operating budgets don't generate that type of cash that fast, and so we're depleting cash faster than we normally would. But that's because these projects, which are good projects, have a cash flow mechanism to them where we have to incur and pay for the costs up front and recoup that over a long period of time. So they're good projects, they're gonna have a good rate of return, but in order to keep our operating budgets and our cash balance, at least to some degree, healthy, even though we know that we're probably gonna have to issue some bonds and do some debt for some of these other projects, one of the mechanisms that the board can choose is to address the rate stabilization fund mechanisms and suspend what we normally would do to make sure that we're staying in a good financial position. And so I think there was some conversation point at the board about these are unique circumstances with unique projects coming up that we normally don't see, and these are 40, 50-year projects that probably won't come around. And so we need to be able to get over this next 6-year time frame of making sure that we keep the utilities in a good position, are still respectable of our ratepayers, and also still maintaining reliability that up until this point the board has never wanted to sacrifice for this community. And so we still have some CapEx that needs to be done. You know, we can pare back some CapEx if we need to from the normal stuff that we normally do. But these big projects that are part of not only our reliability but also regional transmission reliability, if we don't do them, someone else is going to. And so it's in our best interest to continually be a stakeholder in these projects because of the rate of return. It is worth the investment to do that. It just, most utilities aren't sitting around with $30, $40 million of cash to pay for these projects. And so we will have some conversation points that, you know, we'll have to work through a strategic planning meeting and how we balance operating cash with normal CapEx cash and special projects. But one of these, at least to address the next year's budget from an operations standpoint, would be to suspend those rate stabilization fund proceeds that would go back under normal circumstances and make sure that we're keeping our operating cash at least in the position so that we can address the unique capital project items through some mechanisms. And then as part of that conversation point, looking at our retail rates, usually every 5 years we go through a cost of service study. But we've also said when unique circumstances happen, good or bad, we probably need to readdress the cost of service study. And I would say this is a time with these large projects when you've got a $16 million project, you know, at the Hutch substation now at $20+ million on the Wilmer Line project, that the rates that we have been putting in place are nowhere keeping up with the amount of cost outlay that we're not only seeing with these special projects, but just normal operations. So as you look around the industry, rates are going up, costs are going up. We're not immune to those cost increases, and so that's one mechanism that the board at least could consider in the short term, and then we can figure out the long-term cash flow and covering our reserves through a strategic planning meeting. But I think trying to adjust the 2026 budget in a little bit better fiduciary position I think would be prudent for you guys to at least consider.
Do you need approval on that one?
If there's no questions or discussion on it.
Make a motion to approve agenda item 8G.
Motion by Troy,
I will second.
second by Don. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Agenda item 8G is approved.
So I'll look to bring back a modified budget with those two pieces factored in, and then I'll also, do we want to move up the cost of service study into 2026?
I think so.
I think we need to.
I think so.
Okay, so I'll add that into the budget as well. So, and if, I don't think anything else should change. So it'd be addressing those two revenue streams on the revenue side and then adding in a cost of service study on the expense side. And then we'll look to try to get something set up, strategic planning sometime the first part of the year, probably the first 2 months, probably ideally. Sooner than later, especially if we want to try to institute a cost of service study, we're gonna want to get on top of that quickly so that we're in a position to make decisions if we need to by later half of the year, next year. Okay. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Jeremy. Last item is just to adjourn. Do you care to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Troy, second by Tom. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.